Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. You know the saying.
Yeah, it's that classic bit of folk wisdom. We use it to guess if tomorrow will be sunny or not.
Right. But in our source material today, which is Matthew chapter 16, Jesus uses that exact weather proverb to basically roast the religious leaders of his day.
It is a pretty biting opening, honestly. We're doing a deep dive into this text and some accompanying reflections on quiet time or QT and spiritual perception.
And the core premise here is that, well, we are obsessed with predicting the future, right? Whether it's the weather or the stock market.
Oh, for sure. But we're often just terrible at interpreting what is happening right in front of our faces.
Exactly. So our mission today is to explore the difference between simply seeing a problem and truly perceiving its actual meaning.
And to get there, we really have to talk about what is honestly one of the funniest misunderstandings in the Bible.
Oh, it's a total comedy of errors. You have Jesus and the disciples crossing a lake, and suddenly the disciples have this collective panic attack.
Because they realize they forgot to pack lunch.
Right, it's the classic road trip blunder. But the comedy comes from the timing. Because while they're whispering about who forgot the groceries, Jesus drops this super heavy metaphor.
Yeah, he says to take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees.
And because the disciples are just so fixated on their empty stomachs, they completely miss the point. They hear leaven, sow yeast, and assume Jesus is being passive-aggressive about the bread situation.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But to be fair to the disciples, leaven is a baking term.
True. But for you listening who might not be totally up to speed on first-century Judean politics, we should probably unpack why Jesus links yeast to these specific groups.
Definitely. These were the dominant cultural and religious influencers of the time. And just a quick note for you listening, we're strictly reporting on the historical concepts in the source material here. We aren't taking any modern political sides or endorsing viewpoints, just unpacking the text.
Right, just analyzing the text. So the source notes highlight that Jesus isn't talking about bakery yeast at all. He's talking about permeation.
Because yeast is tiny, but it works its way through the entire batch of dough. The leaven here is a metaphor for their teaching.
Their teaching, their hypocrisy, their skepticism. The insight is that bad ideas are infectious.
Exactly. If you don't take heed, those subtle influences shape your worldview without you even realizing it.
But the disciples don't get that. They are still stuck on, we have no bread. And this is where Jesus gets pretty frustrated.
Yeah, he calls them out. Oh, you have little faith.
But he doesn't lecture them on theology, which is interesting. He quizzes them on math.
It is a total reality check. He asks them, when I fed the 5,000, how many baskets were left over?
And the answer is 12.
Then he asks, when I fed the 4,000?
7. The source makes a brilliant point here. Jesus isn't just testing their memory. He's proving that when he is in the boat, a lack of bread is never the real problem.
Scarcity is impossible. They were suffering from spiritual amnesia.
Spiritual amnesia. That actually brings us to the philosophical pivot in the text.
Right, there is that quote often attributed to Nietzsche, or sometimes Hollywood. Forgetfulness is God's blessing.
Which sounds super comforting for modern stress. If you have trauma or anxiety, forgetting feels like relief. It helps you function.
It does, but the source material argues the exact opposite regarding faith. The Bible commands remembrance.
Like Deuteronomy 6.1 says, beware lest you forget the Lord.
Yes. In this framework, forgetfulness isn't a coping mechanism at all. It is a dangerous drift into spiritual blindness.
Because if you forget what happened in the past, like the miracle of the loaves, you panic in the present. So the antidote to this bad leaven is active remembrance.
Precisely. But here is the critical nuance. Remembering isn't just data storage.
It's not about winning a Bible trivia night.
Right. It is about perception. The notes distinguish between simply knowing the truth and actually obeying it.
This is where they brought in the workout video analogy, which I thought was just spot on.
Oh, it's the perfect illustration. You can watch hours of high-intensity interval training on YouTube. You can understand the physiology and the form perfectly.
But if you don't actually get off the couch and sweat, your physiology doesn't change.
Exactly. Relying solely on Sunday sermons isn't enough. Treating a deep dive like this one as purely educational is a trap.
You feel like you've done something because you consumed the content, but you haven't engaged. True change requires exercising personally.
That daily engagement with the text, the quiet time we mentioned earlier, that is where you move from information to transformation.
If you aren't doing the reps yourself, you're just watching someone else work out.
That's the reality of it.
So, to summarize all this for you listening, it seems like the big takeaway is that spiritual maturity is about moving past the surface level panic, those we forgot the bread moments.
And tuning into the actual deeper reality, understanding the teachings and influences shaping our lives.
We need to stop looking for signs in the sky and start perceiving who is actually in the boat with us.
That is the only way to neutralize the leaven.
I want to leave you with one final provocative question from our source notes today.
It asks, what subtle leaven, whether it's a small lie, a habit, or a cultural mindset, is quietly shaping your thoughts right now more than the truth is?
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.